You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
What's happening today, guys? We're chatting with Chris Miles, who is known as the anti-financial advisor, cash flow expert, and is a CEO of Money Ripples. Chris is also the podcast host of the Chris Miles Money Show and shows his clients how to improve their cash flow and increase their passive income now, so they work by choice, not necessity. He's been featured on CNN Money, US News, and EOFire. More importantly, his proven track record has increased his personal clients' cash flow by over $200 million in the past 10 years. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners where you're calling from and maybe something interesting about yourself.
Well, right now I'm in Tucson, Arizona. Normally I'm in Utah most of the year, but every winter I go snowbird. So I go basically leave for the winter, go south and get warm. And so I'm out here in Tucson and loving the sunshine and just loving life, you know?
Awesome. Are you skiing out there?
Nope, I don't ski at all.
But in Utah, no skiing.
Yep, no skiing. It's weird. I'm one of those weird guys. Whenever he goes to Utah to go ski, I leave.
You leave. You're like, it's cold here. I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough. So tell us a little bit about what your business does, the value it brings to the marketplace in the financial world.
Yeah, so my business is Money Ripples. The main thing I do is I do two things. I consult, I connect, and I help people be able to get their money working for them so they have to work so hard for their money, right? So it's all about how to create that freedom, that cash flow, that prosperity right now, not 30 or 40 bazillion years from now, like every financial advisor tells people to do. But it's all about how do we create cash flow today so you work out of choice, not because you have to do it, right? You know, whether it's in your own business, even if you love what you do, it's so much more liberating to do it because you love it, right? It's a mission, it's a passion for you, rather than doing it out of pure, almost feeling like you have to make money. So that's what I do, is really just help people figure out how do we find the money to go and turn it into passive income and take off the stress.
Let's talk about business ownership and some of that and how it relates to that. So I assume some of your clients or many of your clients have to be entrepreneurs. Would you think it's surprising to assume, or is it normal to assume that a lot of business owners, small business owners maybe as well, that don't understand like what an exit strategy is or how to get there or to how to build the engine so it's feeding their potential future in their life?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with, it's weird with business owners because we get into it because we want control and freedom over our destiny in our life, right? But the problem is most of the time we end up painting ourselves into a job, right? I mean, that's really what it's like, a long hours, high paying piece of crap job that we're stuck with. Yep. And that's why I find a lot of times that people get to that place and it's cool because I love entrepreneurship. I think that is the key. Like that's the key to doing it. But most people don't have that exit, like you said. Like they're just trying to work. They hope that somehow they'll have some sort of freedom, but they don't know what that even looks like. They think, well, maybe someday I won't have to keep doing it, but there's no real plan to do that. And my whole goal is, hey, how do we get to the point where you purely work in that business because you want to, or if you want to sell it, you can sell it, like some of my clients do as well.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of times they forget that, as a business owner, your 401k is your business, right?
Yeah.
If you're not preparing that at an angle, or at least prepping how it looks from an investor standpoint or acquisitional standpoint on the outside looking in, every day or every year, at least looking at that from the outside looking in perspective, then that's where your strategy of exit is, I think. And so if you're listening, someone like Chris can obviously help you do that. So you definitely want to make sure that we're looking at when we talk about Chris, where to find Chris at the end of the episode and his website, that helps reverse engineer what someone's life's going to be. How else do you help them? Is it more of like, where do you want to be? Let's reverse engineer that and from a number standpoint and see how we can get there.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get business owners all the time. I'll say, hey, what would it take for you to say, I can quit my business. I can be free to do whatever I want, travel, love life while you're still young. Like I've been able to retire twice by the time I was 39, first time I was 28 and that was back in 2006. And then I went through the recession. I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire, had to battle back out without filing for bankruptcy and was able to do it so that I was able to be financially independent again by 39. And it was through business and through residual income streams in my business, and it was through passive income and investments outside of it. And that's kind of what has been the focus for what I help teach people do as well is, hey, like, it's cool if you can work your business, right? It's awesome, especially if you love it, because, I have a passion for what I do too, but now I only have 2 active streams of income that I do. It's primarily, the consulting work I do part-time. And then I even do this thing where I teach people how to like double dip on their investment stuff too. I do a little strategy that way that also is kind of an active thing. And again, part-time, I work maybe 20 to 30 hours a week, but I make way more money than I did when I was working overtime in my business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to that because you kind of dovetailed into the next question, which was, you just told me you've hit rock bottom on that level, right? Which I love to hear from a 29, then you did it all over again at 30. And no matter what age you are, you're always, young enough to risk and then probably figure it all out at some point, especially if you've done the entrepreneurship journey before. You probably wouldn't have been able to figure it out again if you didn't do that. Like, if you didn't understand that process of what it took, right? So, I mean, give me that a little bit more information about that. I call it rock bottom. It's not like a punch to anybody's gut all the time. It's just like, yes, most people are like, yeah, that was it. I was at rock bottom and then I had to figure it out. I want to know how you figured it out.
Yeah, I was right in the middle of recession. Like I found myself in the hole about 16,000 a month, short between my business and my personal life. And so, I mean, I was in hard times. And I was the guy that was at that point, I came out of retirement to teach people how to get out of the rat race, only to find myself back in it. So I feel like a total, like I'm out of integrity. And so I switched my message. I started going to what I could speak to, which was getting resourceful, like how to find the money to be able to make ends meet, right? Or even get beyond making ends meet, getting out of that survival mode into thrive mode, right? And that's kind of what happened is I started like finding little ways, like, for example, like how do we refinance loans and free up cash there? Because some people get so gung-ho about paying off their debt, right? It's like, no, debt is not bad, especially if it generates income. But how do we find that balance, right? And, the other thing is tracking your money. That was one thing I did not do. When money was so abundant, I wasn't tracking it because it's like, it's coming in like air. So why do I have to count my air, right? But when it wasn't coming in, and then I started to look at my numbers, I thought, man, I'm wasting money on this or this isn't producing income on my business, or, hey, this is just money being thrown out the door just because I had it, and when I started to track money, that's when money started to stick. And that's when I started to actually be able to dig back out of that hole, and I still had to make income. I still had to do things that way, but, I was always looking for, how do I create value for people? What problems can I solve right now? Not how do I make more money? That's the wrong question to ask, right? It's, what do I do to create value and solve problems in a way that people want to exchange money with me? And when I start reducing expenses and increasing the income, reverse the situation. And like I said, I was able to dig out of that $1 million debt hole, $1 million plus debt hole, and come back.
Well, good for you. Good way. I mean, sometimes it's like that. The mess becomes the message, right? You start learning how to do it, and then you start teaching people how to do that, right? And I think that's your back's against the wall. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Either you crumble and you go BK, or you say, nope, I'm responsible enough to figure this out, and you figure it out, and then you build an amazing skill set while you do it. And it's hard to see that while you're doing it because you're just freaking out still, right? And I understand that and been there, but I think that's a really good message for our listeners to understand that sometimes, that mess can become the message, and all of a sudden you can actually capitalize on that as well. Why do you think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, in your professional opinion, Chris, why do you think they either not necessarily fail, but decide just to give up?
I think there's a lot of different reasons. You got to actually really love it beyond the money to do it, right? But I tell people, like, you hear that phrase that do what you love, the money will follow. That's kind of crap. It's not a full 100% truth, right? It's do what you love that others love you doing, and then the money can follow. And I say can because there's got to be a need where people want it, or you got to create that need. Obviously, it's got to be something you love because you wouldn't stick with it otherwise. You're insane to be in business, really, if you think about it. But I say can because you start to develop some basic business skills. You've got to, first and foremost, you got to know how to market yourself. You got to know how to market yourself. You got to know how to sell. You got to know how to deliver. You got to know how to actually be, as a CEO, you kind of have to know the language of all your different roles in your business. Everything from being a CFO on the financial side to being the COO on the operations side, the CTO, figuring out the freaking technology that goes with whatever your business is. You got to know a little bit of everything. Even though you might delegate it, You got to know it. And if you really match all those things up, you get your passions and your genius aligned with what people want, and you got some basic business skills, you'll make it. But most people don't do that. They go into business with all this high hopes and dreams and all this kind of stuff. They're basically living on hopium, right? And then they get in and they don't realize how much it sucks, at times. And then they quit. And then that's the big thing, is that not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, but I think anybody can become an entrepreneur.
Life Nation, we're all striving towards different goals. Maybe your goal is to finally quit the 8 to 5 grind, quit your job, or take the next step with your existing business. Whatever the goal may be, regardless of your reasons, if you are serious about taking the next step and finally trying to build the life that you deserve, the life that you want to live, take the leap of faith with me. Go to michaellevis.com and let's discuss your goals and life. It's 100% free. There's no obligation. It's michaellevis.com. Schedule a quick call. I'd love to help. Stop living on hopium. I love that. That's sweet, Chris. Tell me what you think. I'm just interested, and I think some of our listeners are as well, or they might have their own limiting beliefs about money. Do you feel some people's relationship about money might be just old school, might be mom and dad's put it under the mattress type of setup, and that's sometimes why they're not able to kind of overcome those limiting beliefs and or barriers to invest, because one, they don't know about it enough, right? They're not educated enough about it. But what are your thoughts on that topic, on people's relationship with money?
Yeah, man, it's like one of the biggest things, because you gotta have an abundance mindset when it comes to money, because scarcity, that fear and worry, which everybody teaches you to do when it comes to money, that drives money away. Yep. Scarcity only takes money out of your pocket, while abundance and having a real what I call a stewardship mentality of saying, what's the best use of all my resources right now that will bless more lives, right? So give an example. Like I mentioned debt earlier. Like debt is an interesting one, because people, their mom and pop will say, hey, pay off all your debt, never go into debt, all that kind of stuff, right? But in business, like one of the best things you can do when you have a good, legitimate business and the systems are in place is debt, is other people's money. For example, I remember one of my first loans was an SBA loan, right? It was a small business loan. It was $25,000 line of credit. The minimum payment was like $130 a month. Now, if I'm in business and I can't make $130 a month with 25 grand, I shouldn't be in business. I would suck, obviously. But if I can take 25 grand and turn that even to $1,000 a month, that $130 a month is dumb. Like it's brainless.
Yeah.
But everybody else will say, well, that's too risky, right? It was like, yeah, it's risky because you don't know how to do it. Like you don't have that kind of experience. And yeah, I've heard lots of business ideas. I'm like, I wouldn't put a dime towards that of your own money or anybody else's.
Yeah, right.
But the truth is that if you got something that's legitimate, it's good. Hey, debt can be one of your best friends, and I love it. Like I like to have, even if I don't use it, I still like to have it available and open so that it gives me those options, and I think that's the difference, is that there are a lot of limiting beliefs. The whole save everything, spend nothing, that came from banks. Everybody, they want you to stick money there, but a business owner needs money in their business under their control and their stewardship that they can use and produce and create massive influence and growth and impact.
I think that's a great point in terms of entrepreneurs that are listening and their business model and knowing those numbers, like you mentioned, of the saving technique, or just, do I have enough to hire another employee? And if you have a better, like you said, we don't invest in everything, we invest in good things, but it's, if you have a better business than the shake weight, then I think we might want to see, let's just say this, we want to, we throw out the 7%. I know it's a base margin. We don't got to go into the difference of the compound and how that works and how that's going to multiply. But let's say there's an average of a 7% out there that the industry uses, right, on a return standpoint. But if you have a business that is automatic, like I know my business is spitting out 23 to 25% on a net standpoint, right? And why would I not, if it's a replicatable model, right? Why am I not going and getting a 4-5% SBA loan on, if you're me out there and you're listening, if you have more than a 7%, let's say you have let's say you have a 10-15% net in your business, which is still really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you get a 10%, But guess what? Here's the difference. And I want to make sure people understand the time cost analysis standpoint and also the pull your hair out analysis standpoint that we're going to talk about here is that return on investment at 10% takes so much less time and effort when you put it into someone like Chris's hands in the market, to someone manage it to make sure that you get a higher level of return without the time, effort, and pull your hair out analysis. Okay. Meaning people are sick. People aren't showing up to work. I got to hire someone new. Think about that. But if your engine is spitting out 10, 15% and you're able to do it and you're able to replicate it and still have the systems in place to do it, then yes, why aren't you reinvesting in your business? And you always want to pay yourself first. I get that, and make sure that you have that happy medium, right, Chris? But in reality, yes, you have. What is your engine? Do you find there's a lot of issues with knowing those kind of numbers and breaking those things down with entrepreneurs out there?
Absolutely, Mike. That's exactly it. Because, like, for example, I got a client in Georgia, right? She came to me and I'm totally against the stock market. I'm against all that traditional crap that doesn't work because they produce nothing. You can never become free off of mutual funds, right? Yeah, it's impossible. 401ks, they suck. So she came to me. She's like, Chris, I think I'm ready. Like, I want to take some of my extra money. I'm starting to make more money in my business now. I want to put it into like real estate. And I said, cool, let's do that. But as I looked at the numbers and she told me more about her business model, it was interesting because she has senior living homes, right? That she does. She goes in 50-50 with a partner.
It's good business.
Puts in $50,000 of her own money to start this business. Now for 12 months, she doesn't take a paycheck. Her and her partner take nothing for 12 months. They get the systems in place. They start producing income. By month 13, that 50,000 is kicking off 5,000 to 25,000 a month. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we can make, 15, 20% with real estate. But if I can make with 50 grand, 5,000 to 25 grand a month, that is your engine, right? Yep. That is what we should do. Right. So I said, let's get everything we can possible. Let's get loans, like, even if it's private money, let's get some loans out there, get 3 more of these businesses, produce 100 grand of income a month. And then we can take that extra cash, buy real estate, create passive income from that. So now we got 2 streams of income coming in, taking the pressure off the business, and boom, like we're off to the races. And that's exactly what we did over the last years. Now her income's like up around 50 grand a month. It's like, sweet. Now we can start doing some of the investing, because again, people get caught up in the business side. They try to create income from that, but eventually they get caught again, creating jobs, right? They're always just creating income there, but they get stuck in the business. Now it's like, well, let's create options in both places.
Tell me some excitement, something that's exciting you right now within your business, within your industry.
The main thing that's exciting me is just, man, like all the perfect people just keep reaching out. I mean, these are the people that keep pulling me out of retirement, right? Like,
that's awesome.
Like I just had a guy yesterday and he's like, okay, Chris, I would love if I could retire in 10 years or something. Right. And this guy's been working at Cisco. So he heard me on another podcast. He's like, yeah, I'm actually a coworker with the person that's the host. And he reached out to me and he's like, man, like I got like $1 million saved in this 401k, but it's not doing squat. And they're maxing out their 401ks. And it was funny because I ran the numbers for him. He's like, my age, he's 43. And I was like, well, you basically got to keep saving for another 30 years to create the 15 to 20,000 a month income you want in a mutual fund, just going with normal type of returns in your 401k.
Yeah.
I was like, or we could actually start putting your money to use, doing things, whether it's with investments, real estate, things that are outside the traditional norm that financial advisors don't offer, making 10, 12% a year or more, right? And the actual cash flow, like actual income. And I was like, we could do it in 3 to 5 years. You could probably quit Cisco before you're 50. You can go do stuff. He loves to do mountain bike racing or like dirt bike racing and things like that. I'm like, cool, let's do that. And it was cool to say, hey, yeah, you'll be 73 when you retire versus, hey, you can actually still walk and ride a motorcycle, when you're in your 40s, when we get you to retire. And that's the thing I think is so cool is that, it's just, I wish it was taught out there, but it's just not, and that's the thing I love. That's the thing that fires me up,
Absolutely. No, that's really exciting. I think that's also it's because you're able to be creative outside the traditional ways and be the anti-financial advisor, as you so put it. I think that's definitely understandable and it makes sense. And I think that should resonate with anybody listening here, that there are ways to break down and reverse engineer where you want to be outside of the traditional, let's just say, the market that's out there. So in all of your endeavors and business and in life, if you had to give one piece of parting advice to our listeners today, what would that be?
I'll tell you the best business advice I've gotten for myself is follow your gut. Like trust your intuition. I mean, there's times I hire business coaches that said, "Hey, Chris, you need to do this and this and this," and sometimes they just wouldn't feel right. But sometimes I would do the opposite of their advice, and I would actually make money, make way more money than following it. And it's not that they weren't successful business owners; they were awesome. But sometimes they try to project their own thing of what works for them, right? And I'll tell you, like, when I started to take my focus away from what they told me to what feels right. What do I want my business to look like on a day-to-day basis? What's my ideal day? And really write that out, map it out, say, what would the perfect day look like for me in my business? And hey, how do I generate more residual or passive income streams to support that? Oh, like, man, like that's exactly what changed my life. That's what, again, got me to be financially independent again 3 years ago. It was just using that focus. And the thing that blew my mind is I was making more money in my business, working a third of the hours just by putting that focus, right? By the way, I would recommend a great book called The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz. Great book. Same guy that does Profit First. I did the same thing. I cut off all the busy work, just went with the primary main things that develop the best streams of income. And it seriously changed my business and changed my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Knowing how to break down that time cost analysis. A lot of times, it could be simple as, what are the KPIs that you're measuring and why? Don't get stuck into all the minutia and this overly, data and, paralysis by overanalysis deal. It could be as simple as, wow, you know what? I make money when I'm on the phones. I need the best kick-ass appointment setter out there and I'm good. Mm-hmm. There you go. I bet you there's so many people that just like measure that. If you have employees that are focused on appointments, you're looking at all these KPIs and CRMs, I know how to see if my employee is doing a lot. I look at their calendar, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. That's what turns in. You can't lock somebody in for a deal or a service and show them value, I don't think, unless you're on the phone, because it doesn't work with text message. It doesn't work by sliding into somebody's DM on Instagram. You jump on a call, create something that has value. And guess what? Again, that's when you're able to ask for it, create a relationship. But those are some things I think you got to really make sure you're measuring out there, guys. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your advice. Where can people find you here?
Yeah, first and foremost, check out my podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show. If you guys already listen to the podcast, check it out. I get people tell me they binge the crap out of it. Awesome. So Chris Miles Money Show is awesome. Or you can even, check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/money ripples.
Chris Miles Money Show. And it's moneyripples.com. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time today, Chris.
You bet. We'll see you.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Libas, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.